radio fans. We are now back at the studio. Stand by for your station announcement. And away we go!
Now, I know you'd love to just sit there and keep being not slim, but we got to work a little today, okay?
Broadcasting channels of the entire world will be cleared. In every continent, in every land, in all the four corners of the earth, the whole world over. Men, and women, and children, of every age and race, and nationality, station, and color. Men of every language ready now to listen to the same voice.
So, is this on?
Finally, a way to combine my love of helping people with my love of hurting people.
So sit back, pop open a cold bottle of Brazilian mineral water, enjoy some poached salmon with capers, and adjust the satellite, because we have a great show.
And there was much rejoicing.
Unleash the fury.
Unleash the fury!
Ladies and gentlemen of the universe, the next voice you hear.
It's Erik Nagel.
And that is me, Erik Nagel. E-Rock Radio on Twitter and Instagram. Give us a call, 866-969-1969, if you want to get involved with the program here. We do have some stuff to give away. We've got a lot of movies stacking up here.
There's a pile.
We have to get rid of a lot of this. And
right.
Joining me back after weeks,
yes,
Matt OG. Matt,
hello.
How you been, man?
I've been lovely.
Geek Stuff OG on Twitter and Instagram.
That's correct. I've been away, life gets in the way sometimes, but I have been keeping up with the show. I check out On Demand and during the accelerated shows on Fridays. I've been keeping up with you and Giddles while I've been gone.
You think with Comic-Con in New York, that would have been the perfect time for you to be around everything that was going on, but you had your own booth there and you had your own things going on, so I really couldn't pull you away from that.
Yeah, I was kind of booth locked for 4 days. I really only got around the floor a handful of times trying to wade through the 151,000 people there. But, I had a good time nonetheless, and it was a good con. I don't know where it goes from there. Feels like it's getting too big for its own britches, but I guess we'll see what happens next year.
Well, there's still places in the Javits Center they haven't opened up yet, right?
I don't think so. I think
everything's open now?
I think finally everything is open. Unless they start taking away some of that panel space downstairs and try to figure out how to make that more floor space, or unless they put stuff outside of the Javits Center and do more during their Super Week thing where they use other buildings in the surrounding area. They can't expand much more. They could make some of the bigger booths smaller. Maybe Geico doesn't need such a big fucking booth at Comic-Con.
Well, they're paying the money for it.
Of course.
I mean, Vibrant had a booth.
I know.
When was the last time you saw Vibrant?
I couldn't even tell you.
They're making a comeback, I guess.
And New York Comic-Con, I guess, was their big push, I guess, for whatever reason. But
well, Comic-Con has come and gone, and we'll see it in 2015.
That's right. They've already announced the weekend.
Willing and
most exhibitors have already locked in their booths.
Are you locked in for next year?
I'm pretty sure we're locked in for next year, yeah. So.
I was wondering about getting a booth, but who's going to come and see me just sitting there and say, I have a show?
Just hanging out?
Yeah, so dumb.
You do a little setup in the booth. You do a little show.
We did a lot of great interviews. We did specials for the last 2 weeks, which have come and gone. They're up on demand, SiriusXM On Demand. You can get it through the app and online. Check that out. And I think that's about... Where else has it been playing? We played some on Accelerated.
Yes, that's what I said. That's where I heard some of it was on the Accelerated. I enjoy the Accelerated. I do. It's a nice, compact way to digest all the shit that I miss when I'm not listening regularly. So.
I'll make sure to pass that along. So we have a lot going on today's show. We're going to talk to Tom Cavanagh from...
Cavanagh.
Why do I keep saying Cavanagh? I keep getting the N and the V mixed up. Cavanagh from The Flash. I know him from Ed.
Of course.
Also his podcast, Mike and Tom Eat Snacks.
I remember him from Scrubs.
Yeah, he played JD's brother, right? Yeah. I can't think of the character's name.
Yeah, I don't remember. No. I just remember it was JD's brother.
Well, he's on there. So we'll talk to him in a little bit about The Flash and everything going on with him. Also, director Jason Reitman.
Nice.
If you don't know who he is, his father is Ivan Reitman, who made pretty much most of the classic movies of the 80s that weren't John Hughes movies.
That's right.
They were Ivan Reitman movies. We talked to him about his new movie, Men, Women, and Children, about... Well, it's about
men, women, and children.
Men, women, and children, and how families interact in the day of social media and all this advanced technology. Is it helping families? Is it hurting families, etc.? So we'll talk to him about that in a little bit. I got a bunch of movies here that I really would like to give away. What do we got here? Some Arnold Schwarzenegger stuff. We got Neighbors. We've got, Tom Cruise, Edge of Tomorrow. Transcendence, Godzilla, whole bunch of stuff. So if you want any of these, 866-969-1969. Let's talk to Pat in Jersey. Pat, how you doing, man?
What's up, Eric?
Hey, how's things going?
Hey, man, Comic-Con was so big this year. I was there a whole day. I didn't even know where she was until I'm walking out the door and going, I didn't even find DC. It just was too big. But it was a good time. It was a good show.
Yeah, New York Comic Con's a little bit weird. For the two big publishers, Marvel and DC, their presence, I feel, isn't quite as big as some of the independent publishers, which I guess is nice. I mean, Archaia had a huge booth. Image had a ton going on between their booth, and there was like 5 or 6 different Image panels going on over the course of the weekend. Marvel and DC's presence is always a little bit subdued at New York, which I find odd, but they were there. They definitely had some stuff going on. I mean, Marvel made some pretty big announcements. I don't know what DC did, but I know Marvel had some decent announcements.
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing. The Marvel booth you could find, and certainly the Image booth, they had a lot of signings and creators there the whole time. But I'm walking out the door going, I don't even think I found DC the whole day.
Maybe they didn't. I could have swore that I saw they had some sort of small booth, but maybe they didn't. I could be wrong.
I saw Marvel area. I saw Capcom had something. Yep. I don't remember seeing DC either.
Maybe they didn't have a booth this year.
Somebody told me it was owned by Artist Alley, and that was the thing. I just never made my way over there.
Yes, so Artist Alley, in the back of Artist Alley, they had a huge signing section where they had guys from DC there all weekend, like Greg Capullo and Scott Snyder were there a bunch because of Batman. So they had a presence down there, definitely.
Gotcha. Hey, Eric, I got my eye on that Godzilla movie there.
You want a copy of Godzilla? I can do that. We're going to put you on line 1, Adrian, if you can get him. I'll give you a copy of Godzilla. Now, it's a digital copy because that's the thing now. The companies don't actually send the DVDs anymore.
That's exactly what I want.
Okay, so I'm going to put you on hold, line 1, Adrian, and you got a copy of Godzilla.
Thanks, man.
No problem, Pat. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. We're a little pressed for time here because we're going to get to Jason Reitman in just a little bit. Some stuff happened this week, and some trailers came out that I want to talk about.
Sure.
One is Insidious 3.
Right.
But the one that was making all the headlines was the Marvel teaser for Avengers 2 Age of Ultron.
Right, a week early.
Right. Now, they were teasing that this was supposed to come out at the end of next week's episode of The Shield on
Correct.
ABC with a special edition and what have you, but somebody leaked it on Dailymotion, and it went everywhere.
I think it was an international leak, too. I don't think it was U.S.-based.
So it went out. Everybody was talking about it. It was low quality, but you got to see everything, right?
Right.
So within, I would say, hour and a half, all of a sudden, Marvel put out their official announcement on Twitter and all social media. Here's the new trailer for Avengers 2. And what was the hashtag?
Their first tweet was just "damn Hydra," which was clearly them acknowledging the fact that it got leaked beforehand. And then they did an official release probably a half an hour after that. So, but what I understand is the release that we're going to get after S.H.I.E.L.D. this coming Monday is slightly different. I believe it is somehow either extended or there's some sequences that are in that trailer that is not in the version that is already online. So,
well, I want to play a little bit of this trailer if you hit it right there.
I'm going to show you something beautiful.
Now, we know it's a visual. You can go online and see it, but it's just something in the audio that he talks about.
Screaming for mercy. You want to protect the world, but you don't want it to change. You're all puppets.
Here we go.
Tangled in strings.
This part here.
Yeah.
All right, we'll stop it right here because it goes on for another minute and a half.
Minute and a half, yeah.
But what they did here, and he starts doing spoken word of this a little later in the trailer here. Ultron is a robot played by James Spader.
Right.
If you didn't recognize the voice, they're teasing. No, they're not teasing. They mixed into this the song from Pinocchio.
Correct.
And he starts doing a spoken word version of it a little later in the trailer here. It's creepy, and it makes a really big impact towards the end of this trailer here. So I'm hearing this, and I'm like, I know this. I know what this is. I can't think. And then towards the end, I'm like, oh, right, Pinocchio.
Right.
So now we're going to jump to Insidious 3, which also just came out on the trailer there. Now, if you want to hit play on that. If you're not familiar with the Insidious series, it's about a house that's haunted. They travel back into the netherworld, which they call the Further, and trying to find out what this red-faced demon is, trying to save people and their family. This particular scene here, a girl is texting to her boyfriend who lives next door, and she's banging on the wall, and he's banging back, and they're texting back and forth. And he says, "I'm not at home." So she's like freaking out, like who was knocking on his room? See, like that. Now this is a visual, so if you go home and look at this, she's about to go to bed, something creepy is going to happen. Can you skip ahead just a tiny bit?
Yeah.
They use this song.
By the window, that's where I'll become.
Okay, using Tiptoe Through the Tulips while all this creepy shit's going on. And that, you can stop that there. That's obviously not the original version.
Right.
So they make a creepier version to fit into what they're doing. So Avengers now has Pinocchio. Insidious is using Tiptoe Through the Tulips. And it got me thinking that there's a whole series of stuff where they take kid songs or regular songs and purposely make it creepy just to fit in to movie trailers. I don't know if they're used fully in the movie. Some are, some aren't, but they're mostly in the trailers there. And that's a really disturbing thing. Kids in any kind of suspense or horror thing is just creepy as fuck.
Of course.
It also made me think about what other movies have done this. And the only one that popped into my head immediately was way back in the day for Nightmare on Elm Street, where the girl is singing 1, 2, Freddy's Coming for You.
Right.
If you want to hit that right there.
This one scared the shit out of me.
Me too.
As a kid. This one was really creepy.
Was this 2 or 3? This was 3, right?
This is Dream Warriors, yeah.
Doesn't she sing it at some point here?
I think so.
Or did we pull up the wrong trailer? There it is.
Freddy's coming for you. 3, 4, better lock your door.
Yeah. All right, that's enough. I'm getting terrified. But I was trying to think of other ones that did this. And you brought up one that fit, but they didn't redo the song to make it creepy. Well, that was from Clockwork Orange, right?
Singing in the Rain was one of the ones that came to mind. But you're right, they did not make it. They didn't make it creepy. It really was just kind of context of how it was used. For example, another one that popped into my head was Huey Lewis in the News. American Psycho.
Hip to be square.
Hip to be square, yeah. But again, they didn't make it creepy. It's just in the context of the scene.
And that, I think, was meant to be more comical in a horror sense. It's not taking a popular song and a kid singing it and making it creepy on purpose just to emphasize that the scene may not have been scary enough as it is, but they're now adding this creepy child music to really freak you the fuck out.
Yeah, I couldn't think specifically of other ones. I saw a lot of ones like that, like Jeepers Creepers was in Jeepers Creepers, and but I couldn't find any other ones that were specifically kind of tweaked like that. There's just a lot of. So the question I have then is, what's creepier, when they adjust it to fit like Ultron did, or when they just take a happy-go-lucky song and play it over a horrific scene?
I think it's creepier having the redoing original music to make it fit, instead of being a complete opposite, like Hip to be Square and him killing the hooker and Paul and all that.
Right.
Or Clockwork Orange singing in the rain while they're doing this horrific, or the rape scene and murder and breaking into the house and all that stuff. I think it's creepier when they take the original song and make it kiddie-like.
Well, the James Spader one for Avengers 2 creeped me the hell out. It especially at the very end, but there have no strings on me. Fucking creep me out.
We're going to have to revisit this, Todd. Let's see if we can find a few more and try to do it next week.
Sure.
And when we have a little bit more time to ourselves.
And we should take some suggestions, right? Don't you have a way people can reach out via email?
erockcomment@gmail.com or, Erock Radio on Twitter, Geek Stuff OG on Twitter. Do you have some stuff you want to plug before we get to Jason Reitman?
Just Twitter is fine. Geek Stuff OG on Twitter. And you can check me out on BK's Geek Stuff each and every week. BKGeekstuff.com. That's the podcast I'm part of.
I also did forget, we're going to talk to Judy Greer for just a tiny bit. I talked to her at Comic-Con. She's also in the movie that Jason Reitman is promoting. And then right after that, we're going to talk with Tom Cavanagh for The Flash. It's going to be a good time, had by all.
Right.
And at this moment, let's go talk to Jason Reitman. I am here with Jason Reitman. I got to tell you, this new movie, Men, Women, and Children, went to go see it. You nailed it.
That's kind. I'll go with that.
The movie is about showing how social media, technology, the internet has affected the way parents and children deal with each other and how it's changing their lives minute by minute because the technology keeps changing and there's all these new things that are coming out here. You showed several different stories, which I have seen having teenage nieces and nephews and the way they deal with their parents, and no way near the way that I used to deal with my parents, or my parents used to deal with me back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And it's pretty shocking. If you're not really familiar, like everyone thinks they're up on social media, especially people, say my parents' age, but to see how that's the new nuclear family, if you want to put it that way, of how everybody interacts with each other, it's pretty telling, and it's pretty, I think in a way it's pretty scary with the way the social media is just forcing people in your own family not to deal with each other anymore.
Right. Things are different. I mean, you say all this. That said, my mother, who's 70 years old, just waited 3 hours for the iPhone the other day. So
Jesus. Yeah. I can't get my mom. My mom still has a phone from Singular that was switched to Nokia to get the most minimum plan that AT&T had that they would service.
That's amazing.
And it's $10 a month, and she gets charged 16 cents a text. I was like, just buy a brand new phone, and she just won't do it.
My mom texts me more than any other person I know, and she texts paragraphs, novels. She does something really interesting. If I text my mom a photo, she will text me back a photo, the same photo.
Right.
And it's almost as though she sees the photo as an emoji. Like, the photo is not the photo is an expression of happiness.
Yeah.
So I've sent her a photo, she sent it back to me. Then I've sent it to her again, and then she sent it back to me again. The same photo, right away. So you're looking at a text window, and it's the same photo on the left and the right showing up.
But
over
no
and over.
dialogue replying to it.
No.
And did you ask her why she was doing this?
No, I kind of enjoy the magic of it. I shouldn't even be talking about it. But I kind of think my mom is on another plane. Like, she understands digital technology better than you or I.
Right.
That a photograph, a video is an expression of happiness, sadness. It's an expression of family. It's the same as a word.
I work on a morning show, so between 5:30 to 11 is peak hours. I can't really be on the phone and everything like that. And I tell her anything, if it's an emergency, text me. Otherwise, just wait till after 11 a.m. and I'll call you or whatever. And she'll just wake up and hear an interview that we're doing, and she goes, "Oh, he sounds nice." Or, "Can you give me a copy of the book?" And I was like, "Mom, I'm busy," but you can't really portray that on the phone.
So when you're doing your morning show, you are watching your texts as they come in?
Well, I have the phone off to the side while I'm on the board, and then, you see the light of the phone. So while you're doing something, you look over and you see Mom, but it doesn't tell you the text. So I'm automatically thinking something's wrong.
Something's wrong.
So I look up there, and she said, "Can you give me a copy of his book?" Whoever we were talking to. I was like, and then I'll write her back after 11 o'clock.
I mean, it's funny. I mean, look, on this movie, I was working with these actors, these teenagers who are 15, 20 years younger than me, but they might as well be 100 years younger than me, because the world they grew up doesn't even resemble the world that I grew up in. And you talked about, what it's like to parent today. The truth is, there are no rules. You and I grew up with rules about how much television you could watch and R-rated movies and taking the car out and all this stuff. And presumably, your parents grew up with similar dilemmas with their own parents,
if not worse.
Yeah. Nobody knows what you're supposed to tell your children about the internet. You certainly can't govern it. For me to pretend that I could know what's going on in my daughter's digital life, and that I could govern how often she looks online and what she looks at, if I think I'm pretending I'm lying to myself. So you have the first generation not only of young people who grew up with only the internet, but you have a first generation of parents who have no idea what to do as far as parenting.
Right. I have a cousin who has a teenage daughter, and one time I just saw a photo pop up, and I don't think the girl knew that maybe something was inappropriate in the photo, and I called her mom. I said, you need to go and have this taken down right away, because this is going to be a problem. Her mom had no idea. Now her mom knows how to follow it and everything like that.
Right.
But nowhere near the extent of Jennifer Garner's character in your movie, who at first you kind of see, okay, I see what she's getting at. We got to be, a bit more proactive with social media for your kids. But then she turns out to be so obsessed and so crazy that it's actually damaging not only the relationship that she has with her daughter, but the people that her daughter associates with.
Well, yeah, I think it's these. This is kind of a time-old story. I mean, if Garner had been in Garner's character was in the 1950s music, she'd be the mom who says that rock and roll is the devil.
Right.
But now it's almost as though parents who are too tough on their kids about the internet are really driving their children further and deeper into the internet, into a place that you really don't want your kids going.
Right. And they do it just to get away and escape from their parents.
Well, also just to kind of out of desire and curiosity and the hope of not feeling alone. I think that one of the interesting things about being online is that you can find a community for about anything. So if there's something that's on your mind, if there's something you're curious about, you're going to find someone else out there with the same curiosity who may take you places you didn't want to go.
There was a scene, without giving anything away really, where Jennifer Garner is on her daughter's phone and she's not approving of a relationship that she has with this boy.
Right.
So she pretends to be her and starts texting back and forth with the guy. When I'm watching this, all I could think of was if my dad didn't like a guy my older sister was seeing and he picked up the phone, he would say, look, she doesn't want to talk to you anymore. She's done with you, whatever, and hanging up the phone. Now it's just taken it to a whole new level where they are technologically advanced, but they're way more dramatic than I remember being.
It's a really funny scene to watch with an audience because, the scene is Jen Garner secretly takes her daughter's phone and starts texting to her daughter's boyfriend and breaks them up. It's a horrific scene, and when young people watch it, they gasp at every text message. It's just unthinkable.
Adam Sandler's in this movie, and even though I read some of the notes before seeing the screening, I still was surprised because it just didn't dawn on me that Adam Sandler was in this movie. So I'm watching the opening and I see his name. And then, Adam shows up, and just seeing how he acts throughout the whole movie was something I haven't seen him do really since Punch Drunk Love. He tries to, do more of the family stuff now. And once in a while he throws in a little seriousness into what he does. But to be flat out serious and dramatic was a great call. But what made you think Adam Sandler would fit this role?
I started talking to Sandler a few years ago about doing a movie together, and we had very similar ideas, which was kind of a surprise to me. I thought of him as someone who kind of did more straight comedies, and he and I just jived on a bunch of ideas, and I came to him with this. And look, this is a movie that opens with Sandler attempting to use his own computer to look at pornography, realizing his own computer has too much spam, so he goes into his teenage son's bedroom and uses his son's computer instead. It's a provocative opening.
I will say this, the way Adam looks for porn on his son's computer by going through the history, so there's no real trace that he looked up something new, was genius, because I don't think adults would think to do that. Because I'm sitting there watching and I go, okay, that's a little too clever.
I think he was really just wanting to see what his son was interested in.
Right.
And was surprised to find the things that he found. And we say early on in the film, Emma Thompson, who narrates the movie, basically says that this is the first generation in which instead of sons finding their father's porn, fathers find their sons' porn.
Right. Gone are the days of when you maybe found an old magazine in the woods when you're walking home, or maybe your brother had a tape.
How do all these magazines get into the woods, by the way?
Well, that's the whole cliche.
It's like, I feel like forests in America are half trees, half porn.
Well, in my high school, you used to find not like Penthouse or Playboy or anything, but they were the little magazines that would be for, they were actually for the 900 numbers. So you just flip through and there's like a 4 square on each page with different ads of girls in poses with the numbers. And those are the ones you would find in the woods by the side of the highway, along with fireworks and, cigarettes and things like that.
My first was a Penthouse magazine in Calabasas. Walked down to the magazine stand and put the Penthouse in front of the Mad magazine and had about 5 minutes to just memorize the images in there.
You didn't walk out with it?
No. I needed to like burn them into my brain so that I could have access for a few months.
Do you ever get caught renting something?
No.
Like going to the video store?
No.
Yeah, I did once.
Who'd you run into?
No, I didn't run into anybody. I went to the store, got a couple movies, and rented a movie that a friend in high school told me about that they carried there. So I'm like, oh, great. So I rented it. And turns out the people who owned this particular video store knew my parents. And so kind of tipped them off, but they didn't say anything till the next day when I said, hey, I need a ride to the video store to return movies. And I had stuff like, like Terminator 2 and things like that. And then it's like, oh, what else you have? And I said, no, that's it. And he's like, oh, I thought I saw another one there. No. And then
what's
finally,
that red cassette?
So it wasn't. It was just I know those ones are horrible too, but it was like, oh, there it is. And I had to show him the copy and, and you're busted. And then he gets all mad, but he had to because my mom's there. And then he said, I'm going to take these back. I'm like, okay, fine. He's going to take them back to the video store.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Dean Norris is in this movie as well. You big Breaking Bad fan? Was that cool?
Of course. I got a Breaking Bad thing that's going to blow your mind.
What?
The other day, I decided to watch Little Miss Sunshine. I hadn't seen Little Miss Sunshine since it came out. 2 actors that are in Little Miss Sunshine in bit parts, unrelated characters, Dean Norris and Bryan Cranston are both in Little Miss Sunshine.
I haven't seen that movie since it came out. That is insane.
I choose to believe that Little Miss Sunshine is an alternate universe that sets Breaking Bad in motion.
Doesn't that freak you out when you watch old sitcoms or even old movies and you go, oh my God, it's Leonardo DiCaprio. He's just standing there. He handed something to somebody, had one line, and that was it. And you're like, oh my God, it's all these famous stars in these little bit roles.
Yeah.
It's nice little Easter eggs.
Dean Norris was wonderful. And it's a very tricky role. He plays a guy whose wife has left him. He's alone with his son now. His son was formerly an amazing football player. His son's played by Ansel Elgort from Fault in Our Stars. And his son has gone into the world of online gaming, role-playing games, Guild Wars specifically.
They gave you the permission to do all that?
Yeah, exactly.
Because sometimes you see when they're showing those type of games that are supposed to be like World of Warcraft, they generate their own little demo thing.
Right. So it was very important to me on this movie. If we're going to explore the world of the internet, it has to be a world that we recognize completely. So everything is real. It's Ashley Madison. It's Pornhub. It's Facebook.
Even
it's Twitter.
the teen modeling sites. You hit it right on the nose there too. With a lot of those girls, there was a story so long ago about a girl who went under the name Tiffany Teen, and it was that story. She was a high school student, was modeling, whatever, and then when she got out of high school, started going and doing a little bit more risque stuff.
Yeah,
but it wasn't showing up on the internet as far as the dirty stuff. And then all of a sudden, got hacked, went out. And everybody figured out what high school she went, where she went, and her whole life was ruined, and she just went into obscurity because she couldn't do anything anymore because of her past. So
can you imagine? I mean, that's kind of the question, right? You're supposed to have a period of safety where you can make mistakes that don't count. I mean, that's why, your record gets expunged when you're 18, right? And it's that line from The Social Network, the internet is written in ink.
Right.
And you don't have time anymore to make those mistakes.
I think about that too sometimes. It's like, man, there's some things that I may have said or done when I was way younger that, now kids are just putting up on YouTube or live chatting and things like that and texting. Today, Snapchat was just hacked. And they found like hundreds of thousands of photos that were supposed to be deleted. And they're sitting in a database somewhere. So now all these people that were doing stuff on Snapchat, there it is. The internet is forever.
And it's legit hacked. Because I heard there was a back and forth on it on whether or not, oh my God.
Yeah, it's not like the celebrity hacking where they went into the cloud. This was into their server and found, hey, you're not delivering what you said. These are supposed to be deleted in 10 seconds. And there's a whole database full of everything.
Right.
Men, Women, and Children. I didn't say it comes out October 17th. You should definitely see it. Adam Sandler, Jennifer Garner, Judy Greer. I talked to at Comic-Con this week.
Isn't she great?
She's fantastic. I was talking to her for Archer and Birdman. And was it Birdman or Tomorrowland? One of the two there. She's got so many projects. I see her everywhere now. And I asked her about the movie as well, and she said it opened her eyes because she has kids too.
Yeah.
But she's like, I thought I was really on top of things, and then while doing this movie, she never stops learning how to deal with what her kids are doing. She said there's always something, just when you think you got it, you don't, because then 4 other social networks come out and you got to figure out how they work as
Things
well.
evolve so quickly that I don't think there is a way to keep up. All you can do is try to raise your kid with decent values and enough self-confidence that they don't go looking for it in the wrong place.
Do you have kids?
Yeah, I got a daughter.
Okay. Dealing with your daughter, obviously, I don't think you would go to those extremes like the characters are in this movie here, but do you find yourself that you're finding a tough line where you need to give her her freedom and let her be herself and eventually become an adult?
My daughter's going to be 8, so I'm still in the pre-cell phone years, but she'll demand a phone within 2 to 4 years.
Right.
And that's when it's going to get really tricky.
You're going to have the tracker on her so when she's riding her bike?
No, I'm not. I don't believe in that. I don't buy that. I don't think that helps, frankly. It's frankly right now. I have the next 2 to 4 years pre-cell phone to have all the important conversations and try to prep her for a world that is written in ink, for a world in which she can be talking to strangers, where everything is accessible. Here's the best thing I've actually heard so far came from Ansel Elgort, the actor, who said to me, look, your generation grew up without the internet. You suddenly had access to everything. When you suddenly have access to everything, you want to go see everything. He goes, but my generation, we grew up with access to everything. And when you always had access,
it's not special anymore.
You don't feel that urge to go actually look at everything.
Do you find that kids are, in a way, dumber by having access to everything because they don't learn how to spell? They just go spell check. They don't know how to look things up and remember. They just go to Wikipedia. There it is. Here's your answer. They don't retain anything.
No, I find the coming generation to be very sophisticated. I think that they have access to more news. They're hearing about more things. They're getting more points of view, frankly. I think the further you go back, older and older generations, you have people who generally grow up in a town with one point of view.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not until much later that they hear other sides of the story. You now have these young generations that are getting many points of view, who are being forced to be critical thinkers younger. Even in my own industry, I find that young filmmakers are already much more interesting storytellers because of the things they've seen, the things they've read, and the way they've had to communicate with all sorts of different people.
Men, women, and children. I'm talking with Jason Reitman here. At Jason Reitman, you have a Twitter, so that's good.
Thanks.
You'd be a bit of a
hypocrite if I
I was going to say you'd be a bit of a hypocrite if
Twitter.
you're preaching about social media and you haven't even dabbled on it. But
no,
I see you're on there. In fact, I think you need more than 140,000 people following you.
That's a low number?
That's a low for a man of your status, yes.
Wow.
Last question before you go. Your father, Ivan Reitman, had an extensive body of work. Do you have anything particular that's your favorite?
Oh, of his films? It's a really hard call. I'll say this. I just showed Ghostbusters to my daughter.
Right.
Which was an incredible experience. I can't tell you what it's like to have been on that set at 7 years old and now to show my 7-year-old that movie and to immediately put her on the phone with my 67-year-old father, her grandfather,
right,
and watch them have this conversation about Ghostbusters. Think about this for a second. Ghostbusters came out 23 years out before she was born. Can you think of a film that came out 23 years before you were born that by the age of 7, all of your classmates had watched?
No. Can't think.
It's insane, right?
I love Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters 3, any thoughts?
I think it's incredible. I think, look, the Ghostbusters at this point is more than a movie. I think it's a universe, and I'm excited to see what Paul Feig does, but I'm excited to see what other filmmakers would do in the future with a Ghostbusters universe.
Jason Reitman, Men, Women, and Children, out October 17th. Go see it. It's a great movie. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Who you gonna call? Again, thank you so much to Jason Reitman. The movie is Men, Women, and Children. You should definitely go out and see it. As I mentioned earlier in the interview, I did get a chance to speak to Judy Greer at New York Comic Con when I went to see her for the Archer panel. So I talked to her a little bit about Men, Women, and Children, and here it is. I got to see the preview of a movie that's coming out called Men, Women, and Children.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to be talking with Jason Reitman. And you...
Mom, I said hi.
And you did an amazing job with that movie.
Hey, thank you. Thanks a lot. I'm really proud of it. I love the movie.
It really showed what reality has become as far as dealing with social media. And it's portrayed like it's a dark side, but it's just the way life is now.
Yeah, I mean, it's not... I don't feel like he's being heavy-handed and preachy with the movie. I think he's really just like shining a light, kind of holding up a mirror to it, which is one of the things I really liked about the script in general, was he wasn't like, see what happens? It's just like, hey, look at this.
Jennifer Garner's character in there is not annoying in the way that they're like, oh, I can't stand her, but you're like, oh my God, I know people like that are so uber controlling over their kids.
Yeah, it's really scary. And of course, like, her daughter kind of lashes out. And, you know, I mean, what do you expect? It's interesting because I don't have kids of my own. I have stepkids, but they're teenagers. And, you know, like, where do you draw the line? And how much do you kind of snoop in their business? I mean, it's hard because you want to just think that everything's on the up and up. But how do you really know? How do you know?
Erik Nagel. You know, you rock. Well, he'll be right back.
Let's do it up. Beat it.
Now, it's Erik Nagel.
Well, this is very exciting. I'm here with Tom Cavanagh.
It's very exciting. It's a
low
bar.
I got to ask you a question, though, about your Twitter real fast before we get into everything. Is this legitimately your Twitter? Cavanagh Tom?
Cavanagh Tom is me, yes.
Okay, because you're not verified.
Don't know how to do that.
I thought you'd have a bigger following than you have already, which is ridiculous.
I mean, I don't know how to answer any of that question because I feel like I read this thing recently. It was like, real men don't tweet. I'm like, well, perfect. You know, and I don't know. Someone else set this thing up for me, and I don't know how to get verified. I have really no interest in. I mean, I was like, don't care if people.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't really, I guess I don't care that much about it.
I think it only really matters to be verified in the case of if you're an actual company or a celebrity, so that if there is news or stuff that you're promoting or whatever and it's on that account, you know that is legit information.
Understood. I know there's been some copycats already. It feels like if you're going to copycat somebody, wouldn't you go copycat like Robert Downey Jr. or somebody?
There is a Twitter account for your Ed character, so I knew that was bogus.
Way.
Yeah,
that's not true.
It's all about your life in Stuckyville, and it's just a day-to-day operation about what's going on. Like they don't want to accept that the show has ended.
I think that's good. Good for them.
Though I am a big fan of Ed. Let's talk about why you're here. The Flash.
Yes, sir.
The Flash is awesome.
The Flash is a fun show. That's the truth. I feel like sometimes you have to promote the wares and you're not so sure, but I'm a big fan of the Flash.
Have you read the comics growing up?
Yeah, I actually did. I spent part of my childhood in Africa. We didn't have like television, film, any of that stuff. We had comic books, you know. And I actually kind of thought when going into it, I talked to these guys about doing this show, and I'd done a couple of shows with them already, and kind of like how they roll. And I was like, oh, this could be good. And I personally know a lot about the Flash. This was sort of my opening salvo, and then I realized,
was the Flash your guy? Like Seinfeld has Superman,
Batman.
Batman was your guy.
But there's completely room for the fastest man on earth. I like the Flash too.
Right.
You know, my father was a big like the Flash as well. My father also loved Green Lantern. You know, there's room for superheroism.
Right. The Flash is more than just a cool T-shirt.
Flash is a very cool T-shirt, by the way.
Right.
Strong logo. You know, if you get the weathered gray look and a little bit of Flash logo, it's not bad. But I would thought, well, I know a lot about the Flash. You know, because I mean, how much is there to know? Barry Allen, and he's fast.
Right.
But now that I'm in this world, I realize I know nothing. I'm like the dumbest guy in the room, you know. And
none of your comic book knowledge is helping you out with the TV show.
Everyone's like, "Yeah, idiot! Everybody knows he's fast."
Right?
You know, like, oh yeah, I guess that's right.
What else does he do?
And they're like, "Boom! Would you know about this? And you know about the Rogue Gallery? You know about that?" And if you go, and we went to Comic-Con in San Diego, and talk about like knowing nothing. You're just like, wow, you're rubbing shoulders with people who are a lot more knowledgeable about the job that you have.
Right. This is a very dangerous world that you have entered into, like you just said there. With comic book characters and superheroes being, very trendy and all the rage now with movies and coming back strong in television, there's nothing you can do right by most of the audience, whether it's true to the book, it's true to the story, or if you have to change it for, going in a different direction to make your own stories, you're going to find from anybody online that you're doing it wrong.
You're idiotic.
Right.
You're idiots. How could you do that? What's nice about what we have going for us, Erik, and I don't know if you know this, but so Jeff Johns, who's like the keeper of the flame at DC, is one of our main guys that runs this show. And so he writes the Flash. He incorporated like the newest version. So essentially, we're like, oh really? Because we got the guy. So we know more than you and everyone like bows to him. He's like,
no, sir, you're wrong because they're on the internet. They know more than you.
True, but he's rock star royalty that they all bow to. We went to Comic-Con and literally, because Jeff is a very unassuming guy, and we were up shooting the pilot. Just a tremendous fellow to hang out with. Then I saw him in his realm at Comic-Con, and literally, it's like the president's walking through, and I'm like, you're a big deal. He's like, yeah, I'm a big deal here. And he really is. People treat him.
I hold the key to all that you value.
100%. Yeah, exactly right. He's like, everything you want to be, I'm that guy. You know what I mean? And he's the guy that helps run our show. So we're in good stead when it comes to the haters.
And it's amazing too. At that same kind of con, he would be online to maybe get a soda or a bottle of water, and there's a guy in a Flash costume yelling at him that you cut the line and get the hell out of here and throwing stuff at him, and you're like, you don't know what you just did.
Yeah, exactly right.
What can you tell me about Harrison Wells that's more than just a sexy guy in a wheelchair?
I sort of feel like that is how he is perceived, and I'm fine with that.
You're giving Xavier a run for his money. A wheel for his money.
Well, he's knighted, right? So he's got a hand up on me, I feel, sort of thing. Like he's actually is a knight. And until I get knighted, I might like have like some work to do. But it's always good to have a high bar, something to reach for.
What was going through your mind? How were you feeling when you found out that you got this role for this show?
I'd done shows with these guys, and they were like, "Hey, do you want to do this?" And at first blush, I was like, "No, that's dumb."
Really?
Just because I thought, here's the best way to describe it. In the pilot, you're reading, it's like, dude in a wheelchair going like, you have to move it 700 RPM, blah, 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 blah. A lot of, like, he's a rock star physicist is how they describe it. And I was like saying, there's no such thing. There's a physicist, there's a rock star. The twain don't really meet. But in comic book world, you can have a rock star physicist. I'm like, yeah, but rock star physicist, I don't know. How much is that going to be to play? And then they're like, keep reading the script, keep reading. And then at the end, boom, I go in a secret vault. I stand up out of the wheelchair. I access a plinth, which is one of my favorite new words. And out of that plinth comes a hologram, a newspaper in the future that says The Flash in 2024. And so you're like, oh, so there's mystery, there's other layers and dual personas and roles and all this kind of stuff to all these characters. And they're like, look, Barry Allen, he's the Flash, he has an alter ego. That's great. But in many ways, that guy is the most easily definable of all these characters we're going to trot out. And you're one of those guys. It's like, and so, in episode 2, there's a guy who's like trying to catch the Flash. I stand up out of the wheelchair and shiv the guy in the chest and kill him. And I'm like, the Flash must be protected. So clearly, when these guys started writing it, they had like stuff going on for Harrison Wells. And once that stuff became apparent, I was like, oh yeah, I'm in.
Did you have any kind of concern when you found out about the Flash project, you're going to be a part of it here, where for some reason the TV versions of superhero projects don't seem to get, people aren't giving it a chance right off the bat as if they would, it was a movie?
Yeah, I think one of the concerns that we had is that, when you do television, like most, I don't know what the percentages are, but 80 plus just don't go. You shoot the pilot, everyone's shooting pilots, then the pilots, most don't get picked up, some get picked up, and those ones, even then, the percentages are that they don't go. And I thought the danger was completely that, we might be on the slippery slope, the descendant side of the mountain, and that people might be over it, But that being said, the guys who are doing this show are really knowledgeable and sort of know how to put stuff together. And so I think they've done it like a really, really, we've shot 9 now. It could be a guy, actor coming on going, hey, watch this show. But I really do think these guys feel like they have one kick of the can. Nothing's promised. You could get canceled. It happens all the time. Right. And these guys are like, you know what? If we have a shot at doing the Flash TV show that we love, let's make it awesome and just put so much stuff in there. So every episode is like a comic book. There is like heart, there's humor, there's spectacle, there's massive spectacle. I can tell you, like, the stuff that aired last week, we spent days and days shooting this big climactic fight scene, and literally they got that thing, and those guys were like down in LA, they're like, not good enough. And we scrapped the whole thing, which,
wow,
you're talking thousands and thousands of dollars and man hours. And they were just like, I love the fact that we worked this hard on it. It's just not.
They really want to get this right.
They want to make it look more like World War Z fight. And we did shoot that, and we got that in the can, and we aired it, and it's better, and they want to get it right. They want to, for themselves personally, not be disappointed, if it does get yanked after 7, and they're like, look, we feel like this is a good show. And I think the people who benefit the most from that are the the viewers and the fans.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that you failed. It means we can do better.
They just really want, like, they've loved this thing since they were like 5, 6, and they're just like, look, now we're actually getting a chance to do this. Let's make it good.
Do they ever look back at the old Flash TV shows and say, okay, we're not doing this, we're not acting like that?
They know, the guy that plays our Flash's dad, John Wesley Shipp, was actually the original Flash on the other television show. I think it was 1980 or so that they did, or 1990 that they did.
90,
the show.
I think. Yeah.
And John's great. He's a tremendous guy, and he knows, like, we have reaped the benefits from all the latest technology. What's the Flash? What's his power? Speed. You can't skimp on screen, big or small, on that speed. And literally 5 years ago, Eric, you could not have done the show that they're doing now. Like the speed effects, like the windows blowing out and the actual blur of it, it's visceral. You can feel it.
I like the fire tracks sometimes.
Yeah, the fire tracks. That's the domain of like big movies. It used to be, because on a television budget, you couldn't do it. And now you can. And like I say, we benefit from that.
I love your character, Harrison Wells, on The Flash here. I'm somehow drawn to the villains. You're not a villain. At least I don't think you're a villain at this time. But it seems like you're a bad guy in hiding. The way that you're portraying yourself, you're not with the best intentions that you're looking out for everybody.
Yeah, when we do this show, I have like the guys from like the WB with snipers and scope rifles pointed at me all the time, lest I like give away any secrets. You know what I mean? But they do have like a lot, like not just for me and my character, but the people I work with and other characters. Like it's a comic book, so it's not like, well, he's just going to be this thing. They've got like all this stuff, and you kind of crack the spine of this week's script, and you're like, I mean, I don't know what I can say too much about tonight's episode, but there's like stuff in there. You're like, wait, I get to do that? That's fantastic stuff. Like it's not, there's a line which I love, and it's just sort of our mandate, but there's a line in the pilot where Carlos Valdez, who plays Cisco, is like putting the finishing touches on what's going to be the Flash's suit. And up until then, we've seen him in spandex, which I thought was fantastic. It's like, remember the old superheroes? Remember Adam West? We just chucked some spandex on them and you're good to go. And nowadays, it's like they got the cool suit. They got, like all these accoutrements and things. And the last little thing flourish is he puts like this lightning bolt on the chest, and up until then, the suit's been functional, friction resistant, all this kind of stuff, earpieces, all that kind of stuff, like you're gonna be able to move at his speed and protect him, and it's been function. He puts the lightning bolt on the chest, and he's asked, what's that for? And he says, his answer is, so it's not boring. And that's kind of like our mandate now for the show. It's like, we're doing this show and we just want to do a show that's not boring, So every week they come out with stuff, to the point where like Greg Berlanti on episode 7, we'd gotten so much stuff and introduced so many like classic rogues and characters and had so much adventure and stuff going on. I was like, hey man, like I know you want to do like the Flash show, but are we going to run out of story? And verbatim, he goes, there's always more story.
A couple of things you just said there about them. One, you got to be careful with revealing too much. Two, there always is more story. I want to touch on the costume a second. Any chance or that maybe something's been discussed that you might be donning some kind of outfit somewhere down the line?
I don't know anything about that.
Nothing in yellow?
Oh, here's the thing. If you go on the social media, this is the thing I'm talking about. Everybody's so much more knowledgeable than you.
Right.
They're like, if you read this thing, they're like, dude, I have theories about your character. And they'll throw like stuff like time travel, and you're like, it's like a Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader kind of stuff. And, and I'm like, these theories are awesome. Like, we should kind of maybe hire these people, like, do you want to come like write a guest episode? Because you clearly know what you're talking about. This is what I talk about, steeped in the mythology, that I'm not compared to these people. But what I like is the discussion that it, this discussion that it provokes, because people are into it,
Yeah.
They're really into it.
Well, if you're going to touch on the theory thing here, then
go.
I'm not an internet guy. I'm not blogging. I'm just talking to you.
But so you're like a very knowledgeable comic book fan, Flash in particular?
I've been learning more about it since DC started doing more of their network and branching out their universe. What I didn't know, I'm trying to fill in the pieces, and it's all available now thanks to apps and things online. And if you can't find old trades or issues, they have them online with the subscription service. So I'm like, well, I don't know that particular story of that time of the Flash or this with Superman.
You can
go
pop it up,
and you can go and you buy the whole series, and you're just sitting there on your iPad reading through and like, oh my God, this was so easy. Now I'm into it even more so than I was before.
But what I found was like when I was doing that same sort of thing. I was like, and I thought, good, I'm going to like go from point A and know everything.
Right.
It's impossible.
It is. because the
thought,
stories,
how hard can it be?
Stories branch off in so many different directions. It's hard to get a clear cut
and once
timeline
you start,
of what you're
like,
doing.
Oh, it's almost like the more you know, like the less you know.
Yeah. Yeah,
Crazy.
it's exactly it is, because the more you read about these alternate stories or different versions of things, or they went in different directions, you're like, okay, I know this, but they're not going in this direction. They're going with this character in that direction, and it's your head's going to implode.
And if you try and pin them down, and they're trying to answer you honestly as the actor on the show, and you're getting all these things, but your head kind of starts to
think
explode.
fans need to just watch things and enjoy the ride with it, not try to figure it out, not try to jump ahead, not try to think that, oh, your character may be somebody later in the show, even though I just asked you that. Just enjoy where the story's going. And so what? It's not exactly like the book, but you can see there's a lot of homage to the original story. 100%. There's a lot of, the roots are based in the original origin or something like that, and enjoy a new interpretation of where it's going.
It doesn't matter to anyone more than it matters to them. They're trying to do such
and you're not doing like the George Clooney Batman, where they were just doing it and not giving a shit about the story or the fans.
It is like so dear to them. It matters so much to them, and that's got to be great for the fans.
Well, I like the direction and everything this is going here. It's
what's your theory?
I was going to try to move past that because I felt a little embarrassed asking this, but I'll do it now.
I'm not going to answer anyway. So,
okay. All right. Well, I'll just throw it out there. Yeah. So the end of the pilot episode, like I said, is up on the CW site. You can check it out there. The way the episode ended, was there maybe a hint, because DC's doing all these characters on different networks, is there maybe something that they could do, some kind of tie-in, like a Crisis on Infinite Earths kind of thing, where even though they're on different networks, because of that storyline and that particular series, is a way to bring them all back together?
The branching out thing, I think they're very interested in that. Whether it's a smaller branching out as opposed to really tackling the higher concept.
It doesn't have to be the whole entire library, but I mean, to have certain characters have interaction with each other. Like, obviously, it would be easier for Green Arrow and The Flash being on the same network, same production company, whatever.
Exactly.
But with, say, Gotham being on Fox and some of the other projects coming out on different networks.
I don't know if they would reach as far. And again, I don't know. I don't know that they would reach as far as Gotham, but I think that anytime, you look at it with, on the big screen, is like, look, let's try and get these guys together because we can. And I think they're very much tuned to that as well. How far the reach is, how far it extends, I don't know, but I think it's definitely on the table.
I guess that's really all I can get out of that.
Sure. Yeah. I feel
The Flash on CW, Tuesdays, 8 p.m. I want to ask you something a little bit more on the sillier side, outside of The Flash.
Please.
A project that I find really compelling is Michael and Tom Eat Snacks.
Good for you. Suddenly, like, we're compadres.
Right.
Mike and Tom Eat Snacks, for the people who don't know, is a podcast available on Nerdist and iTunes, where my friend Michael Ian Black and we did movies, television, theater stuff together. And every time we worked together.
What was your first project you worked together, by the way? It wasn't Ed, right?
It was Ed. Yeah. And then we branched out from there and did a bunch of stuff because we're friends. We get along great. And we realized you're always like, when you like somebody in this world, you're always kind of like, I'd love to work with you again, but it never happens. It's just really hard, But we were like, okay, our favorite times when we're working together is what? When we sit down and eat.
Right.
So it's like,
it's just such a simple concept that most people would even
for people who don't know,
think about it. Like, we should just put this out online. You can hear us talk about snacks.
We literally thought our first episode, Cheetos.
Yeah.
We're like, I remember we were doing it at Comedy Central, and we were on Hudson Street in the rain, and we just done what we do every week. We pick a snack, we eat the snack, we rate the snack, but mostly it's two guys sitting at a table, just completely nothing is planned, and we just go. We just talk. Sometimes we don't even get to the snack.
I just downloaded your recent one with vanilla wafers.
Nilla wafers.
I
think we took some heavy shots at. Well, no, we did all right. Nilla wafers did okay. Most of the time, so it's morphed into this thing. We did Cheetos, and we thought, I looked at him and said, he goes to me, is this anything? And I said, no. And yet it's become this massive thing because people love their snacks. Now we have companies like Kraft and Pop Chips sending us this stuff every week. And they're like, we want you to review this. And we're like, we're going to rip you, right? And they're like, we don't care. Free publicity. And it's become it's just snowballed into this thing. And all we do is we sit, we eat the snack, we rate the snack.
Well, I do a bit on the Opie radio channel for Opie and Jim that's called The Consumer, #The Consumer. And it's pretty much, I find all these weird snacks that people wouldn't even think of.
And people go crazy, right?
And
they're just so
I just do a simple review, and I only do it on Instagram until they tell me to bring it on the air. But I post it on Instagram, I give a little review, and people go nuts for this stuff.
They go crazy.
Recently, I just found out Shock Top put out a pretzel beer and a chocolate wheat beer that just came out for their winter package. And I saw it in the store, picked it up, but you just put it up online and people go nuts for this stuff.
Yeah, they go crazy. Literally, if you said to them, okay, listen, it would be much preferable to them is that your kid's ugly. They'd rather hear that than go, the caramel flavor of your product is not as good.
Right.
They'd be like, how dare you?
I'm not feeling this cranberry Sprite that's out right now. Yeah. How dare you?
Go to hell. Like they go crazy.
Right.
They go crazy. I love the passion.
Well, Tom, I'm running out of time with you. Thank you so much for coming by. The Flash is on CW Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. I can't leave without mentioning Ed. I was a huge fan of Ed.
Thank you.
And I don't know why people have this perception of that Ed didn't get a fair shot. I think I would like to have seen it go longer, but you had 4 seasons.
No, we had 4 seasons.
That's more than most TV shows ever get.
When again, like I say, nothing is promised you. Most shows don't go. And when our show aired and did well, producer Rob Burnett and I, who's like one of my closest and dearest friends, we drove home one night.
So that's why you're on Letterman all the time.
It's because I'm winning. And we were like, so what do you think? He's like, 4. We literally had a handshake deal. It's a true story. He's like, 4 or 5 seasons. I said 4. He said 5. Because you never want to, as hard as it is to leave and to say goodbye, you never want to be those people who are just like hanging on,
right,
and you're out of ideas, and you're just doing the show because it's there. And as hard as it was to stop doing that show, because it was just a love fest, that show, everyone just was so gratified and happy to do the show and really cared for one another as much as you can. I feel like most shows don't get to say goodbye on their terms. We got to know that we were doing 4, that we were leaving on 4. We could get the 2 of them together. We could tell people what the end of the show was, and it feels really good to leave still wanting to do it and not feeling that you're on that downside of the slope. So I'm 4 seasons, tremendous run.
Do you think we'll return to Stuckyville?
Always.
Always? In your heart.
Always.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
That's all the time we have. Follow the guys on Twitter and Instagram at eRock Radio and at Geek Stuff OG. eRock Radio and at Geek Stuff OG. The show should be back next week, right here on OP Radio.